Well, there are, it seems to me broadly, three big, I wouldn't even call them theories. They're in some sense more abstract than theories, approaches to thinking about evil. On the one hand, you have people who have really picked up on the emptiness or the vacuity of evil. And you can talk about this in terms of people who think about evil as fundamentally a mistake, some sort of misunderstanding. Or you can talk about, and that would be a kind of Platonic way of talking about it. You could talk about it in terms of an Augustinian way of an emptiness or a vacuum, a vacuity at the heart of evil. And that's all one kind of family of thinking about evil. And there's a second one that grabs onto another dimension of evil, and that is this disturbing experience of a positivity in evil. This is sometimes called a more demonic account, that there's a way in which, in some situations, people can feel a positive presence of evil in driving themselves, maybe, or in a place. I remember reading a book about Rwanda, and the reporter who was writing the book was at a site where there had been a large massacre, and the people had left the bones of the victims there. And at one point, the writer, he hears a popping noise, and he looks up and he looks over and he sees that one of the people he's with has accidentally stepped on a skull and crushed the skull or broken the skull. And he writes, "I felt an enormous, overwhelming rage and desire to hurt this person." And then they say, and then suddenly I felt something beneath my own foot give way, and I looked down, and I had done the same thing. And that sense of simultaneously knowing that and anyone who has felt rage can have this feeling of the power of that. So there's a whole collection of these families of evil that start from that phenomenological insight, that there is a power to that, a terrifying thing, right? And it's what Star Wars will call the dark side of the Force, you know. And so there's this kind of family that talk about the emptiness at the heart of evil, this family that talk about the positivity that they see at the heart of evil. And then there's a third group of systems, accounts, that seem to emphasize more evil as part of an ongoing process of maturation. And this may sound insanely optimistic or chipper in some sense, but it actually has very old and respected Christian roots. And many thinkers, especially in Eastern Orthodoxy, have played around with this idea that you want to think about evil as, in some sense, a passage into maturation that people have to experience in some sense. And again, if there's a kind of an experience that is common to many people that the other two families are anchored in, this has its experience too. Anyone who has grown up has experienced this idea that, in some sense, I intended it for evil, but God meant it for good, right? It's a mild modification of a line I believe we've heard before in the Bible. And that idea, right, that in some sense the things that we do that are terrible might turn out to be good things. That's a plausible way to begin a story of evil as well. And anyone who wants to think about evil, I would say, is going to have to, even if they don't want to, if they choose one of these routes, they're still going to have to give an account of why these other routes sound attractive and plausible as pictures of evil to anyone else.